This is the North Carolina Fusion Podcast.
Brought to you by Wake Forest Baptist Health. Thank you for joining us on the North Carolina Fusion Podcast. My name is Scott Wollaston, and I serve as the Executive Director for the North Carolina Fusion. Today I will be speaking with Gianluca Busio, a former player in the North Carolina Fusion Development Academy program, and now a member of Sporting Kansas City of Major League Soccer. In addition to being the youngest player signed to a Major League Soccer contract since Freddy Adu, he recently competed for the United States in the FIFA U-17 World Cup in Brazil. I also have Gianluca's mother, Dionne Busio, to get her perspective on things as a parent. I hope you enjoy our time with Gianluca and his mom. All right, welcome to the North Carolina Fusion Podcast. Today I have Gianluca Busio joining me. Gianluca is a former player in the North Carolina Fusion Development Academy, and now he's a member of Sporting Kansas City of Major League Soccer. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to talk with him about his soccer journey so far, since only 16 right now, right? Is that correct? 17, fantastic, and has accomplished so much already. So welcome to the podcast. And I also want to welcome Gianluca's mother, Dionne, who will be talking with us about her experience as a, can I say soccer mom?
Oh, sure.
Okay, fair enough. Awesome.
It fits.
Fantastic. Awesome. So let's start with Gianluca. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, your family, growing up here in Greensboro, kind of your youth soccer journey, if you will.
Yeah, so I've lived in Greensboro for, I think 14 years, and I moved to Kansas when I was 14. So, I grew up playing soccer it was Fusion and Goosa at the time. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was great. My brother played there, and my whole family was that was the first team I played for, and so it was a great community, and I loved playing there, and everything about my life growing up was soccer, and my dad is Italian. He was born in Italy, so. He was big on soccer, so growing up, I was kind of just forced right into it, and
Sure.
I'd watch my brother play games with Kusa and Fusion, and I just knew that that was going to be where I was going to be next. And then obviously I made the jump when I was 14, and it's been good ever since.
What kind of made that impetus to make the jump to go to Kansas City?
I think it was just time for me to test the waters. And, to see what I could do at a MLS team, and Fusion was great at developing me to what they could and with what they had, and then, but eventually me as a player, I needed to make the next step, and
Sure.
and the MLS is known as being the next step higher, especially for academies. So
Definitely.
I thought that was the next jump, but then just keep on. They had the pro pathway that I could clearly make, and I made it. So. And
how did you get identified by Kansas City? Because did you go on trials with other MLS clubs, or how did that work?
Yeah, so I went on. So there were three that were the final three. It was Philadelphia, Seattle, and Kansas. Okay. And they all came to me first from I think it was actually from showcases with Fusion. They had with the academy they had the showcases, the national or whatever showcases, and I played in those, and they come to me from some of my parents and talk to them, but it's all started with them coming to Fusion and watching me play for Fusion.
Awesome. So, Dionne, obviously you've had kids playing soccer.
Yes.
Talk about that youth soccer journey as a mom, as a family, and what that's, I guess, meant to you, the sacrifices you've had to make, and so on.
Well, it wasn't really a sacrifice until he left. I have to sacrifice my son to let him pursue his dream.
Sure.
But from the family aspect of it, from the beginning, it was literally a family thing. Yeah. We all played. It was something we could all do together. Mateo played, my daughter Ilaria. At one point, they all played. Yeah. And my husband was coaching, and I'm an early educator, so I had a whole group of preschoolers that I brought in, and they were a team. So I think it was the fun aspect of it, and the getting to be with friends and just have fun. So I think that was the key to it, that everybody was involved and excited, and we had fun, and we traveled together on the weekends once they got older. So I don't see it as a sacrifice because it was something we could do together, and that just helped us build that family time and that connection. And even when my daughter she said, okay, I'm not doing it anymore, and that was fine. It was almost a relief because that was one less game to travel to.
Sure.
But I think because at one point my husband was the coach, I was the manager, so we just kept it in the family. And then we realized there was at a point where we need to pass it on
Sure.
to others more qualified to do that. And we did. And, I think it's just that it started out as fun. It was always fun.
Yeah.
But I think the fun of it and that they were really good at it, just kept them going with
Sure.
it. So even
Awesome.
when, the more family aspect was out of it, it was still fun and something they felt they could do well.
That's awesome. In terms of you being involved as a parent, I know you said you, as an early educator, you brought some kids to the program. You've been a parent, you've been a manager, husband as a coach. Am I right that you served on the board for a period of time?
Yes, I was on the board for a time.
Yeah.
And I started the top soccer program that's here. I think it's still going. I hope it's still going now.
It is.
But I started that as a part of my master's program. We had to do a final project.
Yes.
And because my background is early childhood special education, I saw how they connected and made friendships and that social aspect of it, how that was for my children. They loved it. They made friends that they're still friends with today, playing soccer. And I wanted to have, other kids, all kids in our community to have that opportunity.
That's
so
awesome.
I started that and passed it on. When I went on to another I went to get my PhD and I just couldn't do it with kids and the family. But I'm really happy that it's still going.
Yeah, it definitely is. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's really cool. We'll get you more info to see
Oh,
what's
sure.
going
Yes,
on. So that'd
definitely.
be great. So Gianluca, what do you, in terms of the role of your parents, we hear all kinds of different stories. Like at the beginning, parents get kids to the field and get things, have to pay to play and all those different pieces of it. I feel like there's a point where kids don't want mom and dad to be around anymore for various reasons. What's your experience been with your parents, both your dad and mom?
Yeah, I don't think that was a problem for me. I know I've heard stories also of soccer parents and stuff, but I think they supported me no matter what, and they were always, positive, so they weren't going crazy if, I didn't do well or anything like that. Obviously, when I got older, it'd be more my dad than my mom, but, they'll tell me, what to work on, but it was nothing crazy to where, I'm like, I don't want to play anymore, I hate this.
Didn't burn you out.
Yeah, they were more building me up when I needed to be built up, and they were, just pushing me, and because they knew I was good at it, so they knew that, I knew when I'm wrong, I know what I have to do, and they just support me when I'm down, and they've never been too involved, they're not the type to be screaming on the sidelines saying do this, do that, they'll just be quiet and clap and support me, and that's been big for me, and you don't at some point you probably I don't need my parents anymore, but I think I realized once I left I was like, well, it's a lot better to have them at your games every weekend than to not have them. So I think I was when I was 13, 14, I was like, all right, I'm tired of them. But then I was in Kansas and I was playing big academy games and eventually professional, and they weren't there, and I was like, oh well,
wish them. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good reality.
Yeah.
What I know in one of the, I don't know if it was a video I watched or something online, talk about the influence your brother has had on you as well. So can you talk about that, his kind of what he's done in soccer and why that's been such an impact on you?
Yeah, he was definitely my number one competition, I guess. He pushed me the most out of anybody. Even to this day, it's still us competing. He's playing at Charlotte now, and I don't care where I'm playing. If he scores a goal in the college game, I have to score. It doesn't matter what the games are. So growing up, he was everything he did, I wanted to do, and eventually it came to a point where I wanted to be better than him, and he was just one up for me. It was back and forth. And that was it was nothing like hate or anything. It was just some brotherly love.
Yeah.
And he pushed me, I pushed him, and he still supports me. He loves seeing me, at this level, and hopefully one day it can be both of us at the high level, with each other, against each other, just pushing each other till we make it where we want to be.
Definitely,
I can remember when Mateo was the U10s at our level, but because my husband was still coaching, he was there. He was 3 years old, and everything that they did, that my husband had them doing, he would do it too. Even though he was 3, and we never told him no. If they had to run a mile, I know we used to practice up at Leonard Center, and they'd run on the trail. He was trying to get to the front of the trail, to be at the front of the pack, and we'd scrimmage, and he'd be with there. He's about this high from the ground, and getting in between people's knees, but he was in there and
Yep.
he did it, and that's just carried on. So that's been something really nice
Yeah.
to see, is that relationship that is, it's not toxic, because
Sure.
it can be really competitive, but
Mhm.
it was really supportive.
Yeah.
I think it was honest, and honest when you needed to be, and supportive when it
Mhm.
needed to be. So I really am proud of that
That's awesome.
aspect of it.
Do you think that as an early educator, do you see that the second or third child does get pulled along in terms of
yeah.
like, I think sometimes the first one, it's a lot of
Yes, the
trial
first
and
one
error.
is kind of coddled and more organized and more kind of hovering over.
Yeah.
And I always say, by the time Gianluca came along, he was raised by wolves, because we didn't have as much time,
Sure.
and we really didn't need it, because between his brother and his sister, they had such a close relationship.
Mhm.
So I'd say he got the best of both worlds,
Yeah.
because he got kind of that competitive and sports and really active with Matteo, but his sister, they had another bond too. So it was that more creative
Mhm.
and that more emotional side of it that I think
Mhm.
helps him to be a good player, is
Yeah.
that he got those both influences, and one wasn't privileged over the other.
Mhm.
So he got both when he needed it.
Sure.
So I think that's what helped his
See.
development, and we always made it was fun. They knew, I can say, like, I never had to push them to get ready for practice or get in the. It was like, Mom, come on, you're gonna make
Sure,
me
they're
late. So I was
pulling
like,
you.
yeah, and it's like the minute it becomes a chore for me is when I'm done.
Yeah.
And it never came to that point, And it was even better when they both could drive. Well, when Matteo could drive, because I just put him in the car
Yes.
and
Yeah.
go off to practice, and they lived for it.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome. That's
yeah.
really good, and it's good to hear, because I think that a lot of parents don't. They want to know, kind of, do I push? Do I let them take it? And it's a tough one, I think, because I'm sure. Obviously, you guys love the game and want it to be there all the time, but I'm sure that there are times in players' careers where it's hard and they don't want to go to practice, right, or whatever. They might be tired, and mom or dad doesn't want to push them because they've heard about burnout, but at the same time, a gentle nudge sometimes is necessary to fulfill the commitment. And hey, you've said you want to reach these dreams as your parent. This is my take. So you obviously you really have those moments.
Not really,
Yeah.
because if it was just like it's time to go,
Yeah.
but it was never you need to
Yeah.
do this, or no, they always did. And I think because there was always an aspect of fun.
Yeah.
And I think that social aspect of it, being with their friends, that from the beginning was the draw, and that kept them in it, and that's what kept them going. But as for pushing them, if you have to push them, then he'll tell you when scouts started calling us, and we were just like, really? We never really made, okay, soccer is the way you're going to make it, or
Right.
this is your path, you have
Right.
to stay. It was like, okay, this is going great.
Yeah.
So I think everything was kind of a pleasant surprise for us. So I think it's that we didn't hang all of our dreams on soccer.
Yeah, what was good with what they did when I was playing sports was that they never pushed me, but they made sure to know if I commit to one thing that you staying through
Sure.
no matter what. So
Sure.
if it's not soccer, if it's basketball, football, what it is, you'll commit throughout however long you committed to the season. So then it's not really they have to push me, but I made a promise to them, and they're putting money into it.
Yeah.
So if I'm staying a year of football, I have to commit to that fully,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's what they did with soccer.
Yeah.
At one point it cost a lot of money, so they're like, one sport, soccer, you're committing to it. Practice, games, all that,
Yeah.
and then that's it. At the start of the season, they cleared that up, and throughout the year, they didn't have to push me because I knew that even if I don't like it, I'm going to push through it. Then in the end, we'll look at it.
That's great.
Yeah, and I think we also, when it was possible, we let them do other things that they wanted to do. Because he played soccer in middle school, he got to do basketball, he got to do a little bit of football, and even got to be in a play in middle school for a little bit until the soccer schedule overtook it. But it wasn't, like we said, it was a part of our life, but it wasn't the focus of our entire life. Even though it kind of does take over your social life.
Right.
Everybody we
All
knew
your
was
friends.
because of soccer. So
Yes.
now that everybody's gone, we're having to figure out how to make new friends.
Yeah.
But it was a part, but it didn't overtake our life.
That's great. That's really it's great to hear, because I think that in youth sports, a lot of families lose their balance in a way, right? A lot of other things become unimportant that probably are pretty important, and I like hearing about that you're able to do other sports and other things, because I think sometimes we want everyone to be really good at soccer, and we think that you just drive, and people get burnt out, and it's the stats are showing that that doesn't actually lead to much success because kids burn out and things like that. So that's really great to hear that. In terms of from a soccer experience, some of our staff, I asked them kind of what kind of questions would they want to ask you if they were here, and one of the things that our technical director asked is what are the types of things that you were and maybe even are willing to do on your own time to be an elite level player?
I think now that I'm playing at the highest level in America, it's kind of just the diet standpoint, not eating unhealthy foods and just taking care of yourself. Obviously now it's off season, so I'll go out there more. But during the season, it's it's more on you. There's not gonna anybody they'll tell you you should do this, but it's you at home making the decision, do I want this or that, and it affects you a lot. So I think I'm still young, so obviously there's some days where I'll be like, maybe this won't hurt me. This I'll get in.
Sure.
But, at the end of the season, you really start to look at it like, hey, maybe this did help you out. It's the I'm still learning a lot because I'm a young kid, so I don't think it affects you that much. But every guy that I've talked to has said that not just your eating habits, but everything you do outside. So staying up late, getting your sleep, all that kind of stuff is stuff that they've said that they didn't do as a young kid, but they know it's really important now that they're older and their body's getting, slower and stuff like that. So I think for me, in season, taking care of that is probably pretty big, even though it may not seem right now.
And is there anyone on the team that most people would know that has been like a great mentor or someone that's kind of wrapped their arms around you and said, we want to help you and give you that advice to say, hey, may feel this way right now at 17, but I'm a 30-some-year-old, and is there anyone in particular that's been great working with that?
Our team now, I think almost everybody's, or half the team has been in the league for a while, has been in a lot, so I think every single one helps me a little bit because they're all older than me, so they know more. Right. But guys like Matt Wiesler, he's the captain, so he knows, and he's been around for a while, played national team and sporting at the same time, so he knows how to handle a lot of stuff. But they're all great guys, cool. And they just want to see me do well, so everybody knows what went wrong with them or what went right with them, so they pass it down to me, and I definitely listen.
That's great. Are there certain character traits that you've seen in Gianluca that you would say have allowed him to reach this high level?
Yeah, actually I do. I think that part. What?
He's acting surprised.
I was trying to think of it because he's always been a little bit different because you think by the time you have your third kid, we had a boy, we had a girl, so we had a little bit experience. Yeah. He was always different. He just blew the chart. It was just I just threw the book away because I don't know what to do with this kid. He was just different. He was he didn't fit into any one mold. Mateo was more of a competitive sports, physical, and Ilaria was more of a singing, acting, dancing, friend, social kind of thing. So I didn't know what to do with him, but I think because I don't know if he didn't understand the word no or he just didn't listen, but I think he's just determined. If he has a desire to learn what he doesn't know, if it's something that he wants to do. Yeah. He has a natural curiosity and a desire to achieve something. And once he gets that in his head, you can't get it out of his head. Yeah. So once he got into his head that he wanted to do this, it was just there was no stopping him. So it was either get on the train or let him drive me crazy, asking me and bringing me. And I knew, and it's not negative. It was kind of funny because I really saw that he was determined to do this because he was going after it in a way that any adult would have gone about finding out information, doing research. He mentioned it, and I'm like, no, you're not leaving home at go away.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, exactly. So, and he did that. He came back from a U.S. camp. He's like, I got to do this. Yeah. I need to play with kids at that level all the time. Yeah. And we were completely ignorant of the whole process because it really wasn't even in place when Mateo was going through. It wasn't really in place as it was even 3 years ago. Yeah. So, but he was doing research. He was talking. He was finding information. He was on the internet looking at other teams, and he was coming with, pretty good information.
Yeah.
And there were, scouts and other clubs calling us to say, yeah. And, we had a good relationship with Mark Nichols. Yeah. And, I talked to him, and he's like, yeah, we want him to come out here too, but this is a good opportunity. Sure. So we because it was so new, like, is this a scam or something? Because, we think he's great, but we didn't think he was big. Sure. We thought that was a parent's bias, but apparently other people saw it. Yeah. So we were like, okay, well, listen. So I think just that it was driven by him. When I say that, I didn't have to I had to push him maybe to focus on what he had to do at that time, like homework and schoolwork. But this part of it was all him. So I think that innate desire to do it, I think that was 90% of it, because like I said, it wasn't a chore for me at all. He talked to people, and of course they had to talk to me because I was the adult. I had to be there to go with him on trips and things like that. But it was all him, and because I saw the effort he put into it, he was more of the one that made the decisions, because he was able to tell me, I like this place because of this. This fits with what idea I have for my future. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
It's incredibly mature.
Yeah. He was in mature in places where he needed to be, when he wanted to be, and like cleaning his room and putting stuff away, not so much. Yeah, the normal stuff, not so much. But this, I could tell, this was something that he wanted, and if he had people interested and desire to do it, of course, it's like, and then of course Mateo said, you guys would be stupid to not let him do this. So
that's great.
I think, but I think don't try to make your child something they're not, and support what they are in a good way. Is, I think, because I'd still, if I had to write about it, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you, because we didn't go set out, we're going to have, a 14-year-old pro soccer player. Sure. That was not our intention.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think just listen, build that relationship with your child, listen to them. Yeah. Don't discount what they say just because you want to keep your baby at home.
That's awesome. It's such a great perspective, and it's so helpful to understand as for parents, myself included, and what maybe I'd love to see my kids do, and ultimately I want them to find what they love to do, right? And like I love how you describe that curiosity, because we love seeing kids that intrinsically just love the game, and they're curious about learning more, right? And that just drives so many other things. So that's fantastic. In terms of coaches, what are the most important things coaches have done for you?
I think just the trust that the coach puts in you. Once you earn a coach's trust and the coach trusts in you, you can really shows on the field. He's not afraid to put you in big moments. So my coach now, Peter, he's been a great for my development, because he's not shying away from if there's a big game coming up and and we need a guy to play. He's not afraid to put me in. Yeah. And that shows a lot. Even if I don't play well that game, it shows that he believes in me. And once your coach believes in you, the guy who's giving out contracts, the guy who's putting you in the game, trusting you as a player, it's really good for a player's confidence. And confidence is probably one of the biggest things as a player. Yeah. And so I think just coaches at all ages really just really trying to help a player push up. I don't know. It depends on the player really. But that's also you getting to know the player. A coach that really gets to know the players, and if this guy doesn't do well when I yell at him, or this guy needs to get yelled at to kind of push him up. I think that's for the coaches to figure out, and to figure out they get to know their players really. So coaches who actually know the players outside of just soccer and actually have a good relationship, I think that'll get the most out of a player on the field.
It's awesome you said that, because I think that you've said nothing there about like the X's and O's of soccer, right? I'm sure Peter is brilliant when it comes to those things, and other coaches you've probably worked with in the academy, and John Perry and all those guys. But the fact everything you've just said talks about the relationship, right, and the emotional, social side of it, and I think that's really important for for our coaches to hear as well, because it's really important. We value that relationship between coaches and players, and so if that's a good relationship, we feel that it can be a great experience. So it's really cool to hear that, because that really just drives home what we're really trying to do at Fusion, and seeing it that's the same at a professional level is awesome. I mean, you see guys like Klopp. He's obviously a crazy man on the sideline, but it's so clear that he loves his players, right? And they want to play for him. So that's really awesome. Talk about your homestay experience. So living with a family, what is that like? What do you do on your, do you have free time? What is it like in comparison to what the other professional players have in their lifestyle, I guess, with their families and stuff?
Yeah, so I've been with this host family for 2 years now, and it definitely takes some getting used to. It's different. You got to get used to, can I go upstairs and get a snack? And stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, I think you get past that after, the first couple months, and, the family I'm with, they're a great family, and, they have just a good house, a good situation, they're a loving family, so it made it a lot easier for me to adapt. And I mean, now at this point, it's kind of like the same. I'm just living at home. I'll go downstairs and just play video games for 6 hours, and go to eat, and they know me, so it's pretty much the same thing as what I would do at home. So I think that was a big relationship for me, and it's awesome that now. I mean, the first year I couldn't drive. I had to do online school. That was really tough.
Yeah.
The fact that I had them though to help me, and them to take me outside of treat me as if I'm their family. That made it a lot easier. Then eventually I got the car, started driving and stuff, and now it's just my second home, and I'm treated exactly how I would if I was living here.
Yeah. It's awesome. Well, how's it been for you, and
it's
your
been
comfort
good.
level?
It's like we have an extra family
now.
That's neat. We go to Kansas. At one point I just stay at their house now, because when he was still too young to stay by himself, and he had spring break, or they had spring break for their kids, and they had to go away, I'd just come and stay, and we do things like a family. We celebrate. We've gone to Kansas for his birthday the past 3 years, and it's been a family. The family celebration was us and the Teats. So Sarah and Paul and Anna and Alex. So it's just like they've become a part of the family, and I think it's because we keep communication open. I think I text Sarah more than I text my husband because we're talking, and she and I could tell she cared about him even from the beginning when she didn't know him. Her and Paul, they cared because they were like, okay, I've got somebody's child, and I think they understand the magnitude of somebody trusting you with their child.
Yes.
And I'm terrified. It's like, oh Lord, they're going to see all the stuff that I see. And I think even in our first conversation, because I could tell that their house was very neat and orderly, and her kids are younger.
Okay.
And I said, so how much experience do you have with a preteen, slightly messy?
Yeah.
And she, her eyes just get really big. I said, well, brace yourself, because, that's my one failure as a parent, is to get them to pick up their clothes. And it's funny, so that's been an ongoing joke. And, after the first couple of weeks, she's like, okay, I see what you mean. But he contains his mess. He's in their basement.
Got it.
So he contains it to the basement. And she just reminds him when the cleaning people are coming. And he's like, at least he'll pick up his clothes then, because he knows they'll clean up if they're not a mess around. But it's been great. You have to communicate. I mean, there's such a level of trust, because they're helping you to raise your child. So we've had tough conversations about rules and trying to balance between, she's not trying to take over as mom, but I'm not also not shutting her out of anything. She knows as much about him as I do. We talk, and I don't think he knows how much we talk and what we talk about. But there's a point where we were triangulating to make sure everything was, because he's still a teenager. Teenagers do teenager things. So we had to triangulate. And she's like, this is good practice for when her kids get to that age. So it's been a really wonderful experience.
That's
we
really
got off. This is his second family. First family didn't work out, and that was scary, because that was his first his first time away from home, and there were lots of calls in the middle of the night. I hate it. And it's funny, because like, do you want to come home? He's like, no. The soccer's great.
Right.
The relationship he was able to build even before he was with the first team, with the academy players, just the support there, and the kids that were there with him, that was enough to keep him. Even though the home situation wasn't perfect. The soccer part of it kind of built them up, and to have that relationship with like John Perry and Roomba, where they were there supporting him. The lines of communication were open.
That's great.
So that really helped us too. Even when things didn't go right, I still felt like I could go and say, this is not, this isn't it. Yeah. But for the most part, everything they said that they wanted to do with him or they were going to, it happened. And even when it wasn't working out, it was still open. Like, hey, we have to do this or that. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. As long as we can talk about it, we're good.
That's awesome. That's really good. So I'll talk about a couple, I guess, unique experiences. So your what was it like making that first appearance for Sporting? I think it was, I have here, July 28th, 2018. And then a week later getting to start and getting the game-winning assist with a pretty sick touch. So what was that like? I mean, explain to everyone kind of what that feels like.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty special, it's I think before that game I've been on the roster many times, like 4 or 5 times, and it's different. You're on the bench and you're warming up and all the adrenaline. I think that's when I get most nervous, is when I'm not starting and I'm warming up and you're just waiting to see who's getting called. That was the worst part, and it's it was my first time on the bench at home, and obviously the nerves are running high, and he always comes over, or the assistant comes over, and they'll call your name, and you never can hear who it is because it's so loud. So like everybody's like waits, everybody stops warming up and looks up, and nobody knows who he's pointing to, so everybody kind of like steps forward until he says yeah. So I mean, obviously I'm not going to step forward. I'm not used to going in. So everybody else goes up, and he's like, no, Busio. Sure. We're losing that game too. It was 3-1, I think. So we're losing. I'm 15 or 16 years old, and I've been thinking about the moment, but it never puts it into it's not the same. When you get on, you put your jersey on, they call your name, and you go out there. But I think that was the worst part, just the warming up, putting the jersey on, getting ready to go on. But once I got on, it was fine for me. It was the same as just a normal game. I mean, obviously the crowd and stuff, but you learn to factor that out, and obviously the level's a lot higher. But I mean, it's just another game of soccer for me, and I enjoyed it. And I mean, I don't think we won that game, but it was awesome just being right there. It's really cool.
Talk about your experience now. You just having your trip with the 17s, the U.S. team in Brazil, right? Talk about that experience and what that's like in that environment.
It's awesome. I mean, every time I played with the national team at the youth levels, it's pretty special. It's an honor to play for your country, even though it's not the men's national team, and especially representing them at a World Cup. It's the biggest thing at the youth level. It's the best tournament you can play in, and I mean, it didn't go the way we wanted, but it's a good experience for all of us. And I've known those guys for 3-4 years, so we've always talked about when we were 15, we're going to be playing in the Youth World Cup like the other guys, like Josh Sargent and all them. So it's pretty special, and it was awesome once we got on the field, and those are some of my best friends. So it's like you're reaching your goal with the guys you started with. So that was pretty special. Playing professionally, you have to make new friends, and you don't really know everybody. You're moving new places, so it was pretty cool that I'm also learning how to do that, but I also have the same support as when I started. Started getting to where I wanted to be.
And would you say those players over 4 or 5 year time frame, has the group that you've been with the national team been pretty consistent, or is there some change, and how does that look throughout the years?
It's definitely changed a little bit. Obviously you never know what's going to happen at a young age. People can shoot up, people can go down, you never know. But I think the core group has stayed there. So me, Gio Reyna, George Bello, there's been many guys who just stayed and continued the path, and they eventually signed professionally at homegrown. They've signed in Europe, and you can tell that they really love the game too. So once that's how they determine the core group, really. They can see that you still love it, and they can see how you're going to progress. And obviously there'll be some players who kind of go down or kind of go up, and it's definitely changed with the past 2 years. But I think there's been the same at least 7 or 8 guys who have been in and out, and I think that was pretty special, because usually it's not like that. You'll have 1 or 2 guys who stay, and the rest are just new guys shooting up. But I think our group was special because we had many guys who've known each other for a while.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you get the chance to meet those other families at that level?
Yeah. Yeah, it started out that way when they would go mostly to Florida. So that's a pretty easy trip for us to make. And it's just it's nice to be with families that kind of understand exactly what you're going through. Yeah. If they help, especially like with school and trying to figure that out. And I think he was a little bit different because I think of most of the players that he was there with, he was just about the only one that left home because all the other players had MLS academies in their area. So it was a little bit different. But when, like, for example, with school, it was so hard getting the right fit. So eventually he just finished his GED online. But I had support from, like, George Bellows' mom. We talked a lot. And Lindsay's mom talked, I talked to her. And it was like, well, we did this, and this is what you can do, and this is the bonus, this is the minus. And so it was good to have that group of parents that, I can just call, hey.
Absolutely.
And then it's nice when we FaceTime when he's away. They're hanging out. They are just regular teenagers hanging out. So they're in the hotel room, playing video games, and it's just, hi, Miss Busio, hi, George, hi, Gino, hi, Joe. So it's like when he had his friends over at the house, except for they're in a hotel in Brazil.
That's right. That's really neat. It's awesome to have that peer group, right? And
I could tell the difference in. I mean, he loves sporting, but again, it's like having 20 older brothers as opposed to going to with a national team where you're with people your age, and it's just a relief. And I'm so glad that he got that time because to look at his schedule, because like when we go visit him in Kansas, he's still playing, so he's still working. So to see that he has the same responsibilities that I have as an adult. And he's doing it, and he's doing it well. So it's like I'm in awe of that you were able to do that. So that, that just kind of confirms, this was the right move because he's doing it, and his coaches or his teammates would come up to us, unsolicited. He's doing great. How is he so mature? And they give him that mix of, of kind of parenting, but also buddy. Because, they definitely teach him stuff I wouldn't want my 17-year-old to know or do. But so far, so good.
That's great.
Yeah. He knows what I'm talking about.
So you said your father's from Italy. And I think I read somewhere that would mean that you have dual citizenship.
Yep.
What would happen if the Italian Federation called you?
Definitely. I'd look at it for sure, but I've played for the U.S. ever since I've been 15. So I think it'll take a lot of pursuing, but as of right now, that I see my future is also the U.S. team, just because I'm born and raised in the U.S. I know all my friends.
No pressure.
It's still pretty special that they showed interest.
That's awesome. So the last question before we're gonna do some quick fun questions to finish things out. You talked in one of your interviews that I watched about needing to do certain things to reach your goals. You've had to move away from home. You've had to, those type of things. Well, you've already accomplished so much at a young age. Like, what's your next goal?
Well, we're talking short term. We have the MLS season coming up, and I want to be a consistent starter. And last year I think I started 9 or 10 games, and appeared in 22, and I want to make it to where I'm starting 20 games and getting 2,000 minutes, and obviously I want to impact the game, so getting goals and assists, and that's always the hard part for a young guy, really. It's easy to get in there, score a goal, but then just kind of sit the bench, come in a little bit. So I really want to make the next jump of being a starter and scoring and getting assists and really affecting the game. And then eventually I've been really open about it, and I want to go to Europe at some point, and it's my goal ever since I signed professional sporting. I've always had it in the back of my head that this is where I am now, and I'm 100% committed to that. But at some point, I don't care when, I don't care how old, how young, at some point I want to make it to Europe, and that's, in the end, that's my goal, to play there.
Awesome. That's really great. So I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. They're really not that hard, but we're going to go for it. So, okay. Your favorite food?
Pasta ragu.
Favorite stadium you've played in?
LAFC's, or I like Monterrey's, the Mexican team.
Okay.
Won the Champions League. That was crazy.
Awesome. What stadium would you want to play in that you haven't played in yet?
San Siro.
All right. Do you have a favorite band or musician?
Musician, The Weeknd, probably.
Weekend. All right. What's your favorite video game?
Right now, Madden.
Who's the most influential coach or coaches that you've had?
Well, Peter's probably number one, just because I've been around him. He's been big, and I don't really know. I've had a lot of young coaches when I was younger.
Yeah.
I didn't really think of it that much.
Yeah.
Probably just Peter's the most influential because he's a professional, I guess.
Yeah. And this is kind of a tougher one, maybe a bigger one, but what inspires you?
I think, it may sound a little basic, but my family. But I think probably my brother is probably the biggest one, just because of, he was a really special player when he was, my age, and obviously he didn't have the same opportunities that I had, and I really think that even if he was, if he was, the same age as me now, I think he'd have the same opportunities that I got.
Yeah.
So it's kind of me showing that, we can, this could be us, and I'm kind of doing it for him, and living, both of our dreams out, and hopefully he can still make it. But it was kind of him that showed me this path, and if he had the same opportunities, I really think he could have done the same. So it's kind of me, just kind of living our dreams out.
That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you guys' time spending with us today. I think it's going to be great for our families to hear about your journey, and want you to know that we as a club are always going to be here for you and supporting you, whether you're with Sporting or anywhere else in the world. We wish you continued success in everything, and we're real proud of you, and really appreciate your perspective as a mom, and I love the way you've approached this as a family, and I think we all have things to learn from that as parents, and I hope that it's been super helpful for our families to hear about that. So thank you guys so much, and best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining us today on the NC Fusion podcast. We'll see you next time. Go Fusion.
For additional information, please visit our website, follow us on Facebook, and subscribe to this podcast.